I have a little bit of a confession to make. I wasn't completely upfront when I did my Kyle Rittenhouse interview. I've never had a time in my professional life where Americans have been more concerned about their own self-protection. I have an interesting epilogue to my post on Kyle Rittenhouse, and I will share that with you very soon. But before I do that, listen, if you want to start putting your self-protection strategy together, have a real self-protection strategy for you and your family, please go to timlarkin.com, sign up for your free masterclass, get you started right away. Also, it takes a lot of work to do these videos, and I really appreciate the support. But if you could share this with anybody that you think is interested in the subject, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, and make comments. That's what really helps us grow the channel, and I really appreciate it. Now, I have a little bit of a confession to make. I wasn't completely upfront when I did my Kyle Rittenhouse interview. And I got to give you a little background on it first. So I was watching Joe Rogan's podcast, and he had on Chuck Palahniuk. He is the guy that wrote Fight Club. Great writer, really, really interesting guy, very controversial guy, and really understands human nature. And in his their last interview that he had, he talked about how he deliberately sometimes will present in front of a group of friends or a group or something and deliberately say something wrong to see how everybody reacts and whether, what they want to do. It's this human need to, to correct things. So I got to thinking, and I said, listen, I knew I was going to put the Rittenhouse video together that I did. Now, what did I say in that video? I said that, first off, all 5 counts of not guilty, I absolutely agreed with and concurred with, and there was no other choice. He was devoid of choice during the time of the attacks. And I was very happy that self-defense law was not affected adversely by this incident because it would have been a travesty. I said that. I also said that I thought having a 17-year-old boy out there with an AR running around, doing the job that the police should be doing, the failure of, the leaders of Kenosha and, of the state, that it was a sad state, but I also questioned the parenting of it. And what I decided to do was I deliberately gave wrong information. I deliberately said one of the hot buttons, saying that Kyle's mother dropped him off and, over there, and, she knew what he was doing. Now, testimony is, Kyle's interviews, he basically said, no, he's over at his friend's house. He was in there. He fully decided to do it. His mom really wasn't aware of anything that he was doing. Okay. So why did I do that? I wanted to see what the response is. What was really interesting in the responses, and you didn't get to see a lot of them because a lot of them did not fit YouTube's guidelines, so they couldn't even get on there, but I could see them on my, on my side. They hide them all and say, hey, we can't post this, can't post this. It was interesting as hell. Here I am. The majority of the people that disagreed with or that jumped on me absolutely agree with my premise, with my thing. I'm on your side as far as the law is concerned. I'm on most people's side on the fact that the government failed to protect it. All anybody focused on, like a lot of these people, like the longest thread in the comments was about, oh my God, you're falling into the trap. You did this. You're horrible. I was called everything. It was hilarious. I was called a Marxist. I was called a government apologist. I've lost all credibility. What else was it? It was this is a good one. I'm a veteran And therefore, just like the guys at Black Rifle Coffee and stuff, totally abandoned it. We're never going to really protect real Americans, and threw everybody under the bus. Like these just weird assertions that came out of nowhere, and diatribes. Like people would write, they'd recap everything in the case, that's there because they're so passionate about it. That one thing. Was I given the benefit of the doubt? Was I looked? No. What did we do? They attacked and attacked and attacked. Now, this isn't like poor Tim. I did this. I knew this was going to happen. It was actually really humorous in a lot of ways, and also sad, because this is the state that we're in. We're in a point to where even if I say things that you're in agreement with, for the most part, if I get one thing wrong or if I have a difference of opinion, it invalidates everything else and everybody just attacks. This is a really good lesson for us right now in discipline, because we are being manipulated. Whatever your social media feed is right now, mine too, it is what we'd like to see. It's our own special echo chamber. And you have to consider once in a while that not everybody is in your echo chamber. And that sometimes they're seeing something completely different. Right or wrong doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're right or you're wrong. If you're sitting here going, I'm right, this guy's wrong, you really both should be looking up and going, who's pulling the strings? Who's doing this? Okay? That's the danger. It's the higher level when it comes to your self-protection. One of the things you need to protect yourself from is this. I've said it a million times. This owns us in so many ways, gives us very incomplete information, and it causes us to lash out emotionally. So it was really interesting to do. I was hearing Chuck talk about it on the Rogan podcast, and I thought it was just an interesting experiment to do. And then I tried to defend it, like on some of my things. Like, well, yeah, okay, but guys, I'm talking about a 17-year-old going as a father. This is what I would say. Didn't matter what I said. I was just wrong. I'm a propagandist. I'm on the other side. So again, I thought it was really, really interesting, and something that you should focus on for the next 6 months, just minimum. Minimizing your social media feeds. Don't rely on them. Assume anything that you're getting as far as a news story is questionable at best, because all they want is your attention. Therefore, they're going to write attention-grabbing headlines, and the content's probably going to be mixed. Okay, I'm not telling you anything new. Problem is, even on this channel, with people who mostly enjoy the videos, really like it, I get very little criticism that way. Not that I, would probably have a problem if I did, but this was just amazing to watch. Just by deliberately saying one thing wrong, this is the vitriol that came in right away. Didn't matter that I was basically on everybody who was making the comments. We pretty much all agreed on everything else. So again, guys, was it a little social experiment that Tim wanted to do? Yes, but it's relevant. And I hope, we all take a hard look at our social media feed. We also take a pause every time somebody is saying something that is in the direct opposite of us, and maybe think like, hey, this guy's getting fed, a completely different story than I'm getting fed, and we're not really sure who's getting the right information. I know a lot of you right now, as soon as I said that, no, I'm getting all the right information. Yeah, maybe. Doubt it. I'm not that confident that I'm getting the right information when I'm looking at the media. Nor am I confident from from other sources either. You got to be very careful where you go. Anyways, folks, I just want to point this out because, again, I think this is going to be our biggest challenge for the next year or so, at least, is easily getting triggered into making an emotional response and then doing something that we're going to regret later. Does not pass a 3-day test. Everybody understands what my 3-day test is. Either you, 3 days, you do an act, whatever it is, and 3 days later you find yourself either in jail or 6 feet under dead. Would you at that time tell yourself, yeah, that was the only thing I ever could have done, whatever your act was, whatever you thought you had to respond to, it lands you either in jail or you end up dead. Would it pass the threshold of I had no choice? Okay. I understand that a lot of people, thought Kyle was very courageous. I did too. I thought he was great. I'm not talking about him personally. Wouldn't it have been great if there were adults around that said, hey, you know what, kid? Thank you. You're a good kid, and I really appreciate it. But you know what? I don't want to put you in harm's way. You don't need to do this. Okay, these people are crazy that are out here that are burning and doing. It has nothing to do with protesting and protecting. That's what used to happen. We used to have that. We had our authorities. We had everybody. I mean, right now we're in a bizarro world with a lot of this stuff. So, anyways, I just wanted to pass that on to you. Hopefully, it's a little food for thought. And until next time, stay safe.